So we're going to move right along to our next speaker and our next section, and it is entitled Incentivizing People Through Conflict Resolution. And that is Dr. Patricia Williams. We're going to bring her back. She looks a little different.
We're really different. Everyone take out a piece of paper, another blank piece of paper, and write the word conflict, each letter, below the other. So we're going to talk about conflict resolution. How will we do it? Some opportunities that we have. But fill out conflict, C-O-N-F-L-I-C-T. And then I want you to check one letter. Identify one letter inside of conflict and identify what that means. I mean, of course, it has to start with a letter. You get what I mean? Mm-hmm. All right, take one. Just select one. And then we'll talk about it at the end, which one you selected. So what is conflict? Opposing views and opinions. Anyone else have an idea? How well are you when we look at a scale from a novice to an expert? Where do you find yourself in when you're dealing with conflict or conflict resolution? I'm not asking for an answer. I'm asking for self-reflection. You don't have to share, but I'm hearing feedback. Huh?
Confusion.
Confusion? Okay, that is what conflict. But how well do we deal with conflict?
Master, I got experience.
Awesome. I need to take that class to do better. But I think everyone would agree it depends. Sometimes we do very well, and there's also some other opportunities that we just fail at, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to talk about. It is conflict. So that's the anagram that I asked you to fill out. And those are some characteristics that are identified when we talk about conflict. But we're going to keep talking about it anyway. So if you haven't done your letter, please make sure you do so. So these are some of the key points that we're going to cover. I'll give you a second to review the slide. When it talks about the human factor, why is the human factor important? I also talk about personalities. Typically, I give a longer version that goes into personalities. It talks about the Kilman's conflict mode and a lot of different instruments. It talks about how we create culture, where that culture is coming from, and then adding the personalities. Only going to give you a very small tidbit in this presentation. And then the other thing is 5 methods of resolving conflict. Personalities, we keep it. It is systemic. It stays with us typically. With conflict, everyone will participate in all the varieties of conflict. So it's not I am an avoider. That's who I am. That's not true. I tell you, we all do all the various stages of conflict and how we deal with them. And the last talks about, and we're as a group, or we'll discuss, how do we deal with conflict resolution? What are some of those best practices? Wow. All right, these are some good consequences of conflict. What do you consider some good consequences of conflict? Because conflict can also be positive as well as, I don't like to use the word negative, but there's some opportunities. So you don't have to look at conflict as one. So what is one good characteristic of conflict?
It reveals other ways to look at a situation.
What about, we talked about diversity of thought. We talked about uniformity. Is that really what we want when we talk about conflict? Because if everybody's doing it the same way, that probably doesn't mean that we have some good resolution of conflict. Somebody else give me an example of conflict, a good consequence. Pam, I haven't picked on you yet. Pam, talk to me.
Question again?
A good consequence of conflict. What do you think?
Helps you guide your life.
Guide your life. What about increased creativity?
Right.
Okay, what about social change? If someone didn't think that we needed to do something different or something better, we might not be where we are or doing what we're doing, right? We all know about history and what has occurred through the evolution of history. So therefore, conflict can also create social change, information technology change, culture change. What else? What is also another example of good consequences of conflict? All right, this table. Do I have all introverts over here? We'll talk about that shortly. Give me one.
Self-realization.
Self-realization. All right, now let's transition and talk about what are some It says bad consequences. I like to call things opportunities. What happens when the conflict doesn't go well or we don't handle it well? Yes, ma'am?
Well, I was just thinking about, as far as I'm getting from where I made your family, I would just think about compatibility. And, if you and your mate are always in conflict about something, then I should tell you that, hey, we are compatible, let's go our separate ways.
Yeah, so we got the highest rate of divorce right about now, right? Unfortunately. So that is one. What about destruction of communication? Have anyone ever had the problem, maybe just me, is you're trying to resolve the conflict and the person just shuts down? So does the process, does the situation, we'll talk out. We'll talk out. We'll talk about something. You might want to listen to a funeral following slides, all right? What else? What are some other opportunities when conflict doesn't go well? Misinformation? You told me to go right, I went left, or I thought we was doing this and we kind of did that because we didn't resolve our conflict. Every day we deal with conflict. Every day. Who doesn't deal with it? Who doesn't? Well, see, I'm going to come to your workshop. Don't worry about that. So there's a lot of things that occur because of conflict. Unfortunately, when you look at the news, what do we often see? Unfortunately, a bad consequence of conflict, violence, right? All right. So these are some of the components of conflict. And to your left, we talk about it could be an intra-individual, interpersonal, intergroup, and organizational, and then also identify client. Let's say if you were working for the hospital. So what's the difference between an organizational conflict and an interpersonal conflict? Because not is just about the conflict, it's about what level, the maturity of the conflict. Who wants to take a stab of what an organizational conflict is and an interpersonal conflict? Okay.
I would say organization has the impact to just create havoc in organization. That's just multiple layers. On the individual, I would probably just say it's just, a person.
Do you deal with it the same or differently? I think you were going to share. I'm reading. I'm seeing those interests. Come on, talk to me.
So with interpersonal, it's maybe between two people, where organizational can change the culture in a particular company, which causes dissonance either internally or even among peers. You can't facilitate and or do as much as a team because there's conflict.
Absolutely. So the takeaway to this slide is we have a variety of maturity of different conflicts. Some of them are positive, some of them we have opportunities with. And the first step is, one, acknowledging the conflict exists. Two, how are you going to handle it? And number three, at what level do you participate? Can you start where you are to resolve some of the organizational conflict? Depends on where you are. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you had your finger up like you were in church, so I thought you was going to share something with me. Oh, awesome. All right, so we're going to go to the next slide. It says the next ultimate teen fear factor challenge is the fiery furnace. Anybody heard that? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're up first. How many times do you feel like that's you going into the fiery furnace? You're the one being voluntold to participate in something that maybe you don't have the skill set. You don't have the core competency. You really don't even understand how to resolve the conflict because somebody's saying, I need you to go fix this, but I don't even know what all those underlying issues are. So I'm going to go up there. I'm going to try to facilitate, but am I really helping? Am I really resolving the conflict, or am I adding to the conflict? Now have I become now a part of the conflict process? Have anybody experienced any of those? Yes? And then a lot of times we can, from our own best practices, how well did I do it? How well didn't I do it? Right? So, let's talk about human factor and behavior and personalities. I typically like to say, when you go into a room, what is the one definite thing you know? Just like today, there's one thing I know for sure. I'm absolutely positive you cannot tell me the sky is blue. What is that? Whenever you walk into a room, what is the one constant thing you know?
I'm the coolest one in there.
Huh?
I'm the coolest one in there.
She's the coolest one. You know you. Right? You know you. And a lot of times you know how you affect other people based off your personality, right? Because some people think, oh, you're too aggressive, or I don't like your tone. I mean, you get all of it, right? Because a lot of people will tell you about you.
Yeah.
Right? Because I get that all the time. They love to tell me about me. And it's okay. Because why is that okay?
Because you know who you are.
I know who I am, but next time I need to interact with you, I don't create a conflict because of your perception. Now I can try, if it's important to me, to work on it, to do better. So how many of you, so this is one of the, we're going to talk about the Myers-Briggs. How many of you have taken that? A lot of our military folks have. The team talent assessment, and then we're going to talk about the Kilman conflict mode. All right, this is the talent exercise. I typically go through this, but I'm not. So these are, play with them at the end. Well, typically what we do for this exercise, I have everyone take out their cards, right? Then I make you lay them all flat on the table. And on top of these cards have topics, they have discussions. It talks more about an adjective adverb. Then I ask you to take 1 minute, right? Because it's fast. It's like that impromptu. It's like going to Home Depot and picking up the M&Ms. You didn't go to Home Depot to pick up M&Ms, but you got it, right? So then I ask you to select the top things, the 10 things that you do very well. Then you do that. Then I ask you, select the top things you don't do as well. Why is that important? Because a lot of times we're told to get on groups. A lot of times we have relationships, friendships, communities. We always told to work in teams, but we never do an assessment to figure out, do I have the right people on the team? Right? So if we looked in here and we were all a part of the group and I had 5 people that generated and 3 people that organized, nobody managed the boundaries, and we have no esprit de corps, I call them the sunshine group, then how effective do you think our group will be? We got a lot of visionaries, there's a lot of ideas, we got a lot of people that's going to organize it, but tell me what my right and left boundaries are, what the roles and responsibilities are, the policies and procedures, and then I don't have that sunshine going to be like, come on, you got to have the cheerleader on your team. You got to have the cheerleader, because if not, then our taskmaster is going to beat you down, right? So then this assessment, this card reflects what are your strengths, and then on the back, then I ask you to turn around, and then the cards have different colors. You can't cheat on this one. Right? Because then when you identify your opportunities, if you get the same strengths and same opportunities, we're going to redo that. But I've never in about 5 years ever had that occur. Personality, Myers-Briggs. So we're going to do this very quickly. What's the difference between an extrovert and introvert? So it's how you get energy. So if it's a long week, Friday's finally here, he's like, yeah, I'm going out with my friends. I'm going to go have some fun. We're going to have some mixers. Raise your hand if that's you. You're getting your energy from participating with others. Okay, sounds like I got a lot of introverts here. Then the other thing is with the introverts is more about how do I get my energy? It's been a long week and I need to bring my energy up, or I got a speaking engagement tomorrow. I need to spend some quality time by myself so I can bring that energy management to you that you deserve. Right? So write down whether you're an I or an E. Typically, when you look at the scale, it gives you a rating, a range. And what they do is look at the proximity of where you are. It'll say maybe 25 and then 75 of an extrovert, right? So you're going to default to the strongest element. I would say yes. And the reason why, because I am actually one of those. And I say that because at work, I'm an extrovert. At home, I am truly an introvert. And if you see me outside of here, people are like, nah, I don't believe, yes, I'm truly an introvert. That's my personality. But I become an extrovert when I come to work or during speaking engagements. Why? Because If you want to meet and greet people and run an organization, you can't be really quiet. Make sense? All right, let's talk about intuitive and sensing. How we gather information. Who knows the difference between those two? How we gather information. So typically, I told you it's going to be a few minutes over. I told you it's going to be a few minutes over. Give me a few minutes. So intuitive is the visionary. So let's say, for example, we on a project, right? And I say we need to cure, we're talking about homelessness. And then I got somebody on the team says, I can cure world hunger and homelessness. Then you have the other ones like, okay, how many shelters do we really need? You know, do we need to put up some pantries? So typically the intuitive person is the visionary. Out there, I can cure world hunger, I can cure homelessness. And then you have the person that's sensing like, okay, here's the boundaries, this is what we really can do. Okay, let's just figure out the best way to do it in the environment that we're in. Everybody understand? Write down whether you're I or an S. Thinking and feeling. So they say 66% are women as feelers, and 66% are in men who are thinkers. I just happen to be in that, I guess, the category with the men. So I hate to be dramatic. So let's say, for example, there's a car coming. You see a kid get ready to cross the street. The thinker is going to think about the probability of me being able to get them and me not being hurt. How they're going to psychoanalyze before they decide to go. Just like people that run into a building. They're going to do risk management before they ever walk inside the door. That's typically a thinker. For a feeler, I'm feeling the situation, I gotta go. And a lot of people do that. That's why we call a lot of these people heroes. Because when everybody's walking out, that person is walking in. Which one are you? So the last one is judging and perceiving. Everybody's been on a vacation. So let's say, for example, you go to Dubai. And you know you're spending a lot of money to get there, a lot of time and trips, and then you say, well, when I get there, I need a schedule because I need to make the most of my trip, right? So if you do, you are a judger. But if you're with your counterpart, your relationship with your friend, and he says, oh, let's just get there, we'll figure it out. You're a perceiver. Why is that important? Because when we talk about conflict, I got to know your personality. When she's talking about the he, the guy that is or is not, or the she or she is not, it's all about personality. You take that everywhere you go. And if you're going to resolve a matter, then knowing the person's personality and where you're creating that conflict would probably help a lot. So let's talk about the Kilman conflict mode. We got competing. We got collaborating, compromising, avoiding, and accommodating. Which one appears to be a lose-lose perspective? When you look at the Kilman conflict mode. I don't think I need to explain to you what competing is, right? Or collaborating, compromising. Right. So first, let me ask this question. What do you think you are? What do you really kind of default towards typically? Now, I'll talk about me. I'm basically an accommodator. I'm going to try and accommodate. Is that really a win-win for everybody? No, I want to get to a solution. Remember, I'm a judgment person. I'm not feeling this situation. I'm depersonalizing it. I want to get to a solution. So therefore, my default typically is accommodating. We got to get to a mission. We got to attack the hill. I'm not feeling this. What about competing? You're an extrovert. That means you talk the discussion out. You're an introvert, which means I need to get some energy, I need to psychoanalyze this, and you have an individual who wants to do it right here, right now, but that's not you. Have you ever experienced that conflict? So not only is it important to determine your personality, is how people deal with conflict. How do you deal with conflict? Which one is the best based off what situation? Because all of them are different at all different times. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you want to say anything?
No, I just to your point, I was going to say it depends. It depends on the situation.
It depends on the situation. A lot of times is competing really a win-win, or is it the person being what? Their ideas, their opinions is what they're advocating. But it's hard when they're an extrovert and you're an introvert. So managing the human factor conflict. So how do we manage the human factor conflict? What are some suggestions? What are some recommendations besides the one I put up there? Listening to others' perspective. You can't resolve the problem, go get some help, manage the risk. You know, because I think somebody made a point. She actually did. She said when I was in college, I don't even remember all the parties I was supposed to go to now. So don't make a permanent decision or a period out of a chapter in a book. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. If it's not that serious, it's okay. I always say people take you to the battlefield. You don't have to go. So what are some of the other suggestions and recommendations to resolve conflict?
Keep an open mind.
Keep an open mind. Yes, ma'am?
Keep open ears.
Open ears. Any other suggestions?
Don't always put your feelings in it.
Don't put your feelings, especially if you are a feeler, right? But the takeaway is, one, identify that there's more dimensions to the conflict than what you probably recognize. Do a self-reflection and understand the other individual before you start competing. Try to understand where they're coming from based off the dimensions. We talked about the personality, how they deal with the situation. Respect. So these are my 2 blocks that I typically use, or when I typically teach a very longer session than this, about conflict management. Everyone deals with conflict, and a lot of us don't deal with it well. I encourage all of you. One thing for sure, you're going to have to deal with people for the rest of your life. And number 2, it would be great if you could do better in that relationship. Any questions?